Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rusty78609, and I know the lighting sucks, but it's okay because you don't need to see me anyway. This is a little fireside beer 30 chat. This is Thanksgiving Day 2019, and it's been a nice day. We've had a little overcast, temperature in the 50s, but a very nice day. My oldest son and I had a Thanksgiving buffet at a restaurant nearby and really enjoyed it. We really pigged out, which is not unusual. Thanksgiving Day, that's what you do. Then we came back home and then we went triking. I have two electric trikes, which now I only have one. And we went triking around the neighborhood. It was a little cool, but I bundled up. He did too, and we checked him out and had a little fun on Thanksgiving Day. He stayed for a little while. He left just a little while ago. And I have to tell you, I live alone. A lot of people do. It's not like it's a new thing. But I'm 74. And, whenever you have company and then they leave, since you've been living alone, it's like it leaves a hole or a vacuum. You know what I mean? It takes a while for you to get back into that being alone syndrome. But anyway, enough said about that. But that was today. That was Thanksgiving today. That was, this is November the 28th, 2019. But let's, what I'll do just for a Beer 30 story or something to talk about, let's turn the clocks back 60 years. Most of you can't turn it back that far, okay? There are a few of you that can. And don't worry about the lighting. Don't worry about seeing me. Watch the fire and listen to the crackling, because I'm 74 and I'm certainly not pretty to look at. But if we turn the clock back 60 years to 1959, 1959, I was in South Texas, 14 years old, living on a farm near Kennedy, Texas. Small town back then, 2,000 or so people. Certainly not anything to brag about. And we lived on a hill, and we had a small farm, and we had a front porch. I remember that. We had a front porch, and it was covered. And every now and then, of course, like everybody did back then, because we didn't have air conditioners, window air conditioners or central air and heat, we didn't have any of that. So we'd sit out on the front porch, and I know all you guys did that. But for the Thanksgiving period, like leading up to today, Thanksgiving Day, my mother would start cooking different things in advance. So, the house smelled of all the fragrances of foods cooking, and different things. Oh, it was a high time. I mean, and of course we had a garden, and we had hogs, and we had chickens, and we had a few cattle, had an old milk cow and stuff like that. So everything that was put on the table Thanksgiving Day was probably about as organic as you can get. I mean, because my brother and I think I've probably told you some of this story before, we'd go out and kill a few hens. I think my mother cooked 3 hens for Thanksgiving, because we always had, some of the kin folks over. All the kin folks lived in the area. Back then all the family lived in the area. I mean, it wasn't like, we had relatives in New York and they had to fly into airports. We didn't have any of that. And, but once my mother got all the stuff pretty well prepared, the day of Thanksgiving. Of course, that was the last thing she did was, cook the bread, and oh God, the house just smelled. It was like, you can imagine all the smell, the fresh bread cooking, and then the kin folks. Of course, my mother would get together with, she had 2 sisters in the area, and of course their husbands and children would show up. And they would bring a dish or dishes of whatever food. So really, Thanksgiving Day was a freaking feast. I mean, of course, we ate pretty good all the time, but but all, we had fresh eggs from the chickens, and all the all the potato salad and all the stuff was, was really. I mean, it was about as healthy a food as you could eat, and of course, garden vegetables. You had, of course, tomatoes. We had okra, and we had potatoes. Yeah, we had a few potatoes, onions, of course. I don't remember what else we had out there. I know I spent a lot of time in that garden, it seemed like, but it was a total feast. And then in the afternoon, of course, we'd make homemade ice cream and stuff like that. And I know all y'all have heard all that stuff. But the kids, of course, after lunch, whenever we had a small home, believe it or not, it wasn't very big at all. It was there were 3 bedrooms, but the bedroom my brother and I slept in was not really intended to be a bedroom. It was a plant room that was converted into a bedroom for my brother and I. It was like a little greenhouse that they kind of closed in and made a bedroom out of it. It was probably, I'm just guessing now, probably 10 feet by 6 or 8. Well, it wasn't 8 feet. I'd say 6 feet maybe, because it had one bed in there, and the head of the bed was against one wall and the foot of the bed was against the other. So it wasn't very wide. But that was my brother and I's room, and we had one double bed in there, and eventually then they put in a cot in there that I slept on. My brother slept on the other bed. Of course, he was 6 years older, so he left home, and I was still there, but enough said about that. But it was your typical country just country life. I mean, pretty, as far as simple, I couldn't say it was simple, because it's pretty complicated to know when to plant crops, know when to harvest, know when to fertilize, know when to do all the stuff. So I'm not too sure it was even any less complicated than today. There were a lot of things that we didn't have to deal with that we deal with today, but still, again, this was 1959, and I made a note, and I talk about that. Back then, of course, we had a sofa and one, it wasn't a recliner, but it was an overstuffed chair with a footstool. And then there was another chair of some kind in the, quote, our small living area. But after the noon meal, boy, believe me, that was like the snoring room. A lot of guys would, the older men, or they weren't that old. I mean, they were in their 50s, most of them probably, but they would take naps, and they'd talk for a while, and then, next thing you know, you hear somebody snoring. That's the way it was, and nobody really cared. But here's a story that I'll tell you about that period, and this moves away from the Thanksgiving feast and all the Thanksgiving stuff to a period a little earlier, probably about 6 years earlier, when I was, or maybe 7 years earlier. Well, wait a minute. I'd have to even go back further than that. I would say I was probably 5 years old, so this would be 1950. And we were on that hill farm at that time. We had moved from what was called the Tobe place. My dad was a sharecropper, and did pretty good, and bought our own place and started moving on up the social scale. And but we weren't well off by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, we survived, and but I never thought we were poor. We were doing okay, and so. But we did have chickens, and I remember I used to watch the old hens. When the eggs hatched, the little chicks would come out, and I thought they were so pretty. That little furry, yellow, feathery looking stuff. But they didn't have feathers; they just had like hair almost. And but I'd watch them, and the old mama hen would teach them things, and they'd all follow her, like you've seen ducks, the little ducklings and stuff. And but anyway, I wanted to pet one so bad, I just wanted to hold one, you know what I mean? And so I'd watch them, and the old hen would come out every now and then. She'd have all her little chicks with her. But every time I tried to catch one of those little old bitty chicks, they were quick, man. They were fast. And I wasn't too good at it because I was too small to run very fast, I guess. And but anyway, this went on for a long period of time, or days. Back then a day for a young kid was a month today, or a year. because I wanted to catch one of those chickens. I wanted to pet a chick bad. And so one day I saw this old hen, and she had, I don't know, 4 or 5 chicks behind her, kind of in a row, and she's moving forward, and they're right behind her. Well, I was hidden close by the garden, and whenever they came by real slow, boy, I jumped out and took off running. I mean, I got one, culled out, so to speak, and I mean, I was on that dog, and sure enough, I sure was on it. I accidentally stepped on that damn chick. I did. I remember it as clearly. If that chick was under my foot today, I could have died. I could have just crawled in a hole and died. I killed the damn thing. I mean, by pure accident. I mean, my act. All I wanted to do was just touch the damn chicken. And anyway, that has stuck in my mind. I might as well have murdered a human being. I mean, that is in my mind, and it won't go out. But I can see it. I know exactly. I was right by the garden, and the chickens were heading back to the chicken coop. And boy, here I came like a wolf. But I didn't want to hurt the daggum thing. And but anyway, I took off running. That little chick, instead of kept going forward, it turned to go back where its mama was, which was normal. And me not anticipating that event, I did. I sure did it. I accidentally stepped on that chick, and that's one of the stories that has stuck in my mind for all these years. But growing up back then, of course, we didn't know what shoes were. We never wore shoes. I mean, I went to school barefooted. In the first grade, second grade too, far as I know, and nobody ever said a thing about it. And but that was that was just life. That's how you learn things. And did I learn? Yeah, I learned. I didn't mess with those chicks anymore. I sure didn't. Live and let live was my motto from then on. I didn't want to mess with them at all. And but it was a good life on the farm. We were there my whole life basically. We moved into town to my grandmother's house when I was about 17. So that would have been 1962. Because I graduated at the age of, I graduated in 1963, so maybe it was 63 or the beginning of 63, I'm not sure, 62 I think. But and we moved into town, and that was kind of, I thought was going to be a real treat, and I hated it. I did. I felt like I was trapped. You couldn't go outside and do anything. I mean, what I used to do, just roam around and walk around. I mean, there were people all around. So that's why I said one time in a video that people that live in cities have a totally different outlook on life than people that grew up in urban, or really I say suburban areas, out in rural, particularly farm type people, ranching type people. Their mental makeup toward life is so totally different. We see nature in a whole different perspective than city folks, and that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. And but Thanksgiving Day 2019 as opposed to Thanksgiving 1959, guys, all I can tell you is it was like another planet. I'll give you a few examples. Of course, I know I've given you these examples before, but we had a party line. I know some of you guys did too. We were on an 8-party line. That's telephone, guys. No cell phone. TV was basically our own entertainment. We had one radio. Nobody ever turned it on. And but TV reception, you had to go out and turn the antenna to get snow and all that stuff off the screen. You get a lot of y'all don't even know what I'm talking about. But it was different, and we didn't go to town. Even though it was only 3 miles away. Rarely I went. I mean, I didn't want to walk 3 miles into town because I didn't have anything to do there when I got there. I didn't play baseball or do any of those things, and sandlot football. I'd do a little of that with them, but I really didn't know what the rules were or care. But I'd go there and play and have as much fun as I could. But it was just like coming into another planet, and the kids in town thought differently, and even back then, it seemed like they had a little less respect for other people's property than the country folks did. They seem to be a little more destructive of other people's property. And but maybe that's just in my hometown. Maybe other towns are different. But it was really fun today. I sat there, and of course I looked at my son, and he's 40. I don't know how old he is. I mean, I have to think. 47, I think, maybe in that range. I hope. I think that's close. And then I have another son that's 37, and a grandson that's probably 22. I think 20-ish. And they didn't make it, but that's fine. They never do. But life goes on, guys. So if they're, again, I've said this in a lot of videos that, like when my family, there were 6 of us. There were 4 children and 2 adults. And now there's three of us. The 2 girls are my 2 sisters and me. And of course, my brother died years ago. My mother died years ago. Father died many years ago. And so and when you live through those things and see that the passage of time is not under your control, and that you need to seize the day and enjoy it, because there ain't no guarantees. And if there's anything you want to do, I say this all the time, you better be doing it, because there ain't nobody waiting on you. You better do it yourself, And, of course, I'm older. I mean, I'm looking back, not back when I was 40 years old or 30, 20, whatever. You couldn't have told me any of this stuff, and it stick. I was not focused on that at all. And but the highlight of the day is, of course, being with my son and enjoying a decent meal or a good meal, and watching other people and talking to people while we were waiting in line. There's, it opens at 11, but there's always a long line, and I got to talk to some people, different age groups, and yeah, there's a whole world out there, and it's but this is just one culture I'm talking about, the Gringos primarily, and then there's other cultures all over the world, other religions, and we're kind of a little selfish in our thinking sometimes, that the way it is for us should be the way it is for everyone, and that is not going to get it. We can compromise in a lot of areas and reach harmony, but thinking that we can cram down somebody's throat a new way of life over a short period of time is totally wrong. It ain't going to happen. And what am I referring to there? I have no clue. It just hit me. Let me have a swallow of beer. I'll see if I can't pop out another thought. Oh, that's good. But anyway, and I say that a lot. And the reason I say that is because I'm grabbing time trying to come up with a thought. But for you guys that have your family around and you're enjoying yourself, pat yourself on the back, because those moments come rarely. In fact, it's almost like when you're there, they fast forward and then they're over. You see what I mean? It's like this day came and went like that, just a pow, just gone. And every day does that. It's just that you're not occupied with, your mind's not occupied, and so it seems to go a little slower. But be that as it may, I said that again. Enjoy your life. And how you like my fireplace? All you got to do is go to YouTube and type in fireplaces, and you'll see 500 of those. You can pick out any one you want. You want a crackling fire or music in the background. They got them all. See, now that would have been pretty neat back in the 1950s, I guess. But see, you turn the clock forward 60 years from today, in the year 2079. Think about that. What's the world going to be in 2079? Well, you got to know that there's going to be a lot of changes. I mean, I'm not going to be here, and none of y'all are either. Well, let's see, some of y'all will. Some of you will probably. But yeah, you're going to have all electric cars and all kind of things. But life will still. Well, I don't know about that. I'm going to have to back up on that. I'm thinking life is going to change a little bit. But be that as it may, let me end the video now by saying, thumbs up, guys. Carpe diem, adios, bye bye. Buy anything you want. Enjoy your life. Excuse me. Buy anything you want. Use the Amazon link if you think about it. I appreciate it. Drink plenty of water. 3 or 4 quarts a day won't hurt you. It's good for you. It'll help you avoid gout, kidney stones. It'll also help you lose weight because you'll be full of water. And then what else? Take deep breaths. Breathe in deeply. Hold it for a few seconds. Breathe out slowly. That relieves stress, lowers your blood pressure. All these things I end with are towards your health. What else? Stretch, walk, exercise your body. Stand guard at the door of your mind. Keep your health. When I was standing there in that line today, there was a couple that came up and asked if I would hold their place, kind of like a ghost place, while they went and sat down because they couldn't stand up very long. Okay? And keep your health so you don't have to get into that situation. So you can stand there in line and go in and get you something to eat. So having said that, guys, I hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving. Thank you for all the all the comments related to have a good Thanksgiving. I appreciate that. I did the best I could, and I hope you do too. But we'll talk again tomorrow, and adios again. Bye. Adios. Bye. You see, that's one word to me. Adios, amigos. Bye-bye.